Welcome to the very first episode of the Electronic Emotions program. My name is Sean, and I'm here to talk about my first games. The first games I've played, the first games I owned. I have Forrest who's going to help me talk about his first game as well. First games are really important. They're the ones that really define how you feel about gaming. But it's not just the games themselves, it's the circumstances in which you got them or played them, whether it's with family or friends, and I think that makes a big difference, and that's why we all have our very own stories for games. Ow, you're biting me.
Eidos, why did you have to bite me? Now we have to start all over again. I don't have time to get Contra to come in to replace you, so you'll have to do. Next time, though, Contra's opening the episode with me.
Welcome to the very first episode of the Electronic Emotions program. Since this is the first episode, I'm going to be talking about my first games. The first game I remember playing, the first game that I had, even if it was a false start and I had to give them up, and the first games I actually had and still have to this day.
I would like to give a quick mention to a couple of electronic games, the old LED ones, not LCD, of games I played, because they hold a special place with this theme as well. The first one is Space Invaders, which was the first game I ever played. Now, what I mean by that is the first game I've ever played. The one where you push buttons to make something happen on a screen. I remember loving it. It blew my mind, and I was about 4 years old when I was at my aunt's when I played this. The other game I want to give a quick mention to is a game called Turtles, not Ninja Turtles. And I had that at age 6. Now, that would be the first game I ever had in my home that I remember. And it's also one of those LED electronic games. Later on, I'd like to go into more detail about them. But I thought they just really needed a quick mention since they were also gaming firsts.
Alright, Forrest. This is the first episode of the EEP. And, as such, the theme of the first episode is gaming firsts. Now, you're young, so your first gaming wasn't too long ago. So I've picked out 3 games. Do you remember which one was the first one you played? It was! You're right! And now you're just playing with the other ones, right? How many games are there? How many games? It's 1. 2 games. 3 games. And what's that one you're holding? What game is that one?
This.
What game is this one?
Mario.
Mario! That's right. Yep. Mario. On the Mario and Duck Hunt cartridge, no less.
I was probably about 8 or 9 years old when my parents brought home my very first Atari 2600. The games that they brought home were Asteroids, of course, E.T., and Star Raiders. It was fun. I mean, Asteroids is as simple as Asteroids gets. E.T., I loved it. I read the instructions. I learned how to play it. My parents never let me play Star Raiders. I'm guessing it was more for them. They told me I wouldn't understand how to play it. Whatever. I didn't get a chance to prove them wrong because after about 10 minutes of play, the machine's video would kind of, smear across the screen. I'm not sure exactly what was wrong with it. Apparently the store they bought it from had some water damage and the machines were on sale. They replaced it for another one, but it was kind of the same issue, so I don't really know what the deal was, but I didn't get to keep my Atari. There were some local friends of ours that had a working Atari, and we gave the games to them. I was sad, but because I never had a video game system before, it didn't hurt me as much as it could have. But a couple years later, that's when it began. When I was 11 years old, I lived on a farm just outside of Prince Albert in the province of Saskatchewan in Canada. I got off the bus one day after school, and I got up to the back door with my backpack on and everything, and I go inside, my mother's standing in the entryway. She's giving me this weird look like something's up. No, not a bad look, not like I'm in trouble or anything. But she's got the door partially closed too, so I'm like, what's going on? She opens the door and she kind of points me to look inside, and wow, what was that hooked up to my TV? Their TV, whatever. An Atari. Again, I mean, it's been a couple years since 3 years maybe, since I had my first Atari, and here's another one. I have a chance at an Atari again. I was worried that it was going to have the same issues where it didn't work, but it worked fine. And not only that, I got 7 games to go with it. The first 7 console video games of my life, the ones that started my entire collection. Once again, I got Asteroids, can't miss out on that. Donkey Kong Jr., Mario Brothers, Mousetrap, Activision's Skyjinx, Sprint Master, and Super Football. I played them over and over, and it wasn't very long at all before I started collecting a lot more. So there I was. After a false start, I had 7 games, 7 innocent Atari 2600 games. I could not have imagined that those 7 games would begin a complete change in my life. The people I've met through gaming, I would never have met them without those first 7 games. Already I'm kind of an old guy. I'm old enough to remember the toddler years of gaming, the early 80s. And I didn't get into gaming until, the late 80s. I probably didn't get my Atari and those 7 games until 1989, 1990. The NES has already been out, the Game Boy and the Super Nintendo right around the corner. But it didn't matter. Those were my 7 games. My first 7 games. I was thinking about this, though, and thinking about what to say. What about those people like Forrest, my boy, who they're probably not going to remember their first games. They're too young. They were born into the world of gaming and tablets and iPhones and such. What are they going to remember? They won't have that memory. Just like I don't remember my first movie. They just were always there in my life. But then I was watching one of my friends' YouTube shows. And I'll link you to that. And he was talking about the first game he bought with his own money. And I think that's what you can do. I mean, if you don't remember your first games, remember the first game you bought with your own money. I don't, actually. I mean, I could list off a few that could be the game I bought with my own money, but there's no point in trying. Maybe someday. But, let's cherish our firsts. The first we had, the first we bought, whatever. They're the ones that took us down this path. And what a path it is.
Well, I think you've done your part, Forrest. Do you want to say goodbye to everybody? Say goodbye, everybody. Bye-bye.
How do these make you feel? What is your point?